And continue with where we left off. Hello? Yesterday evening we were speaking about the basic understanding about insight, giving you an idea what insight is and how it works. Today we go one step further. Just to remind you, insight comes from mindfulness and perception. Perception recognizes it. Mindfulness makes sure it recognizes something, cognize something properly in accordance with reality. Wrong perception leads to wrong thought. Wrong thought leads to wrong views. Mindful perception leads to right thought. Right thought leads to right view, or right view in the sense of insight. So this right thought, right view comes with the right perception. And this is, of course, developed as you practice vipassana. That's why we are practicing vipassana, developing insight. First, mindfulness, and mindfulness continuously. Mindfulness when sharpened and acute. And mindfulness is sharpened, acute, and directed at things as they really are, free from concepts, ideas, defilements, and so on. Now that is the basic truth. And we said, remind you what you said yesterday, and the root of insight is actually the sharp perception of things as they really are, free from concepts. That means there's no thinking. Sometimes it's difficult to understand how can wisdom arise when there's no thinking. Because modern understanding, philosophy, science, and all those comes with a lot of concepts and thinking. Whereas this insight comes from direct experience into reality. So you cannot be thinking, although you have to think to practice and to arrive at that. Seems to be a bit of a paradox. Anyway, if you do manage to go into that, then you should, I say shouldn't using the vocabulary. Some counselor, psychotherapist said that. Have you heard of Louis Hayes? Right. Have you heard of Louis Hayes?
heard of her. I don't know much about her. She's a positive psychologist.
Yeah, correct. She makes a lot of affirmations, and through the affirmations, a lot of people cure themselves of those terminal illness and all those that diseases that should not be used because you put stress on yourself. Anyway, you practice properly according to the instructions, and if you are not too dull and not too dense, you should arrive at that knowledge. Because there are a lot of obstacles, 1,001 obstacles to the way. It's just like trying to stop thinking in the modern world itself is a big deal. Cannot stop thinking. Biggest hindrance in the West is thinking. Because from the very start in school, they're taught to think. In Asia, it's catching up very fast. But in earlier days, they don't think. They memorize. At the same time, they also get brainwashed. But depends on what they're washed with. So when you have that type of sharp, keen awareness of the reality of the present, you would experience that first initial insight, because it's just what is there. You see it clearly, it's there. It's just there's somebody in the room, and you come in the room, your mind, eyes are clear, and you look around, he's there. You cannot see him, there must be something wrong with your eyes, right? In the same way. Okay, we will not delay you on we come to the main part. And as I said, once you experience it, and that's what we call inference, direct inferential knowledge, not direct inferential knowing, knowledge. That what you experience is true. That means you have a direct, rational understanding. And you know. You see something, you experience something, the moment you come out, I say, oh yes, I experienced this. Then you relate your study or you relate to what people told you. Yes, it's true what they say in the sutras. So there is a inferential knowledge. It comes after the direct, immediate experience free from concepts. Then what happens afterwards? So we said that in the first case, you experience what you call the Paramatha Dhammas as described in the Abhidhamma, in the Abhidhammata Sangha, Manual of Abhidhamma. So you have the 28 qualities of materiality, 52 mental states, 89 consciousness, and Nibbana. And these are words. These are, when you think about it, they're ideas, but they're based on real experiences. Now, this is the first level of the experience of the Paramatha Dhammas. Just like when you start stepping into water, you get a feel of the water directly. This is the first step, but it's still the beginning of a journey. And that's the first. So we say experience it in the, what do you call, terms of its sabhava lakkhana, in terms of its specific characteristics. As I said, earth element, the specific characteristic is like hardness. When you say hardness, yes, you know what you mean by hardness. You think hardness is like that, that's thinking. But if you take a hammer and hit your head and you're still mindful, and then you experience hardness. And that hardness is the earth element. Is it? It's the earth element, but there's only when you actually experience it. When you come out and reflect, oh, there's the earth element. And immediately the influence will develop into ideas of hardness. So what hardness is it's the base of all materiality. So I was thinking about it for some time. Because the conceptualization is so fast and so quick, and very immediately it goes into one after another of the more subtle conceptualization and follow up. Then this Abhidhamma and his commentaries gave me some clues. It says it's the fundamental or the base of all materialities. It is from earth element there arises the three other great elements and all the derived elements. Yeah? The Mahabhuta, the Padaya Rupa, and all those things. So I start going to meditation, I start looking at it every time. Earth element, earth element, earth element. Then somehow I got it. It's basically material existence. And what is material existence? The Abhidhamma again came to my aid. For example, it has no object. It is impermanent. And so on and so on. Describes. They know what they're talking about, obviously. You know, it's something like that. I try to explain to you whether you accept or not. Good luck. So, like this, earth element is generally you say hard and soft. Okay? Then it gives you another clue. Hard is the strong earth element. Soft is the weak earth element. You get a clue? If somebody say it's resistance, something like that. You can put away the difference between hard and soft and just know it as it is, and that is the earth element. Because when you talk hard and soft, the concept of comparison comes into play. Then you are already, what do you say, a bit of split. So it is just presence. That's what Dhamma means, presence, existence, presence. And in terms of earth element, if just say you can know a presence of something and you don't have an object, it doesn't know anything. Hardness doesn't know anything, softness doesn't know anything. It's just hard and soft if you experience it. Yeah? So that presence which does not know and have an object, does not take an object, that is Rupa Dhamma. But the definition goes one step further to make sure the purpose is served. Talks that it changes. The definition, it changes, therefore it's Rupa. Everything changes. No? When I first read that definition, it doesn't make too much sense to me. But if you know the Rupa as a presence of the earth element, and you look at it and it changes, then it makes sense. That means it's impermanent, it's not permanent. It does not have an object. It does not take an object. Then you get really what actually means, and then when you experience clearly the immediate influence, influential experience that you get. And I'll give you some idea. So from there, they put in a word concept, Patawi in Pali. English we say earth. Chinese we say Ti, Tita, Mahabuddha, Ta. So this is the first level of experience. So we know it by its Sambhava Lakkhana, specific characteristic of becoming. Becoming is the existence. So that is that, but it's not the beginning. It goes deeper and deeper. And as it goes deeper, what you experience, you classify under the different knowledges. Traditionally, for example, in Mahasi, we use a lot of what we call the 16 insight knowledges. You heard about that? You practice Mahasi, you should have. You should have. Some traditions don't believe it. I mean, okay, I mean, everybody has their freedom of choice. Yeah. Obviously, it occurs in the commentaries, occurs in the text, and so on. But I mean, and in terms of experience, of course, it occurs when you practice. Of course, people they cannot say, "What proof are you have?" Scientific arguments, everything must be proved by logic. But logic is all thinking. Very ironical. Of course, they say you cannot say you claim something, so you must argue in terms of textual sources. Okay, they argue, not me. My body is chicken feet, so I keep quiet. Let my teachers, they know better. They will explain to you. So that is the Sambhava Lakkhana, specific characteristics. Then the other things mentioned also. For example, the Sankhata Lakkhana. Sankhata means formed, conditioned, characteristics or the signs of conditioning. Sankhata Lakkhana. Then there is the other one, which is Samanya Lakkhana, which translated as general characteristics. Specific characteristic means it is specific to a certain Dhamma, to a certain state. And the earth element is specific of that hardness and rigidity, specific characteristics. But generally, these characteristics, these signs or marks that can be perceived are found in all conditioned realities. Anicca Lakkhana, Dukkha Lakkhana, and Anatta Lakkhana. The characteristic of impermanence, the characteristic of suffering, and the characteristic of non-self. These are three universal characteristics. found in all dhammas, except when you speak of nibbana, the unconditioned element, it is anatta, non-self. It is not anicca. Because anicca, impermanence, does not apply to it. Dukkha does not apply to it. Anatta applies to it. Yesterday I did mention to you, was it yesterday, the day before yesterday, these two words were given to me. I had it from Pandita, I think occurs also in the text. I think. In the samatha jhanas, the concentration is based on the object, strongly dependent on the object. Aramana Upanisaya jhana. And the vipassana is the tilakana three characteristics. Upanisaya jhana is strongly dependent on the three characteristics. Why? Because the nature of the object of vipassana is based on the three universal characteristics. What is a vipassana object? So you should get that object if you have that vipassana mindfulness that I told you about. The one-pointed clear awareness, sharp, keen, without concepts, and in the present reality, present existence, the existential reality. So that, because when that state of mind comes along with that type of object, but the problem is that type of consciousness and mindfulness does not develop so well beginning. It develops as you practice. So when you practice, the object is not so well defined, not so clear. Sometimes you don't know whether it is the Paramattha object or not. For example, when you watch the pain, is the pain a Paramattha? Pain is a Paramattha. It's dukkha vedana. But do you watch it with a clear insight awareness? In the beginning, no. In the beginning, your mindfulness is not so strong, not so sharp. You're lucky if you're mindful. When it comes to strong pain. So although you're looking at it, you're not really looking directly into the Paramattha object enough to give you the first insight knowledge. When you're looking at it, when you're at the door, but you haven't entered it. The food is can be more clear in the sense that you watch your food. Some people walk right, left, and concentrated on the shape of the foot. The toes are connected to the soles and connected to the heels. All those are conceptual realities. You can be mindful, but not directed in any way to the realities. Realities, you must watch it as a process of experience of sensations, and then you direct into it. Even then, it may not be clear enough to give you the first insight knowledge. You're getting there, but not quite yet. So that's why we're talking about this samanya lakkhana. When samanya lakkhana, you talk of the three universal characteristics, the signs of the and three universal truths. Now, this is important because the three universal characteristics is actually reality itself, spoken in a way so that the beginner, the neophyte, can understand, at least on an intellectual way, at least possible for him to follow the instructions properly. So, just like the Buddha is standing on the one side of the river, and this Mr. Beginner is standing on the other side of the river. And the Buddha said, "Come over here." And sees the Buddha, he follows his direction. No? If he doesn't believe the Buddha, he walks backwards. That's the end of him. But if he sees the Buddha and he listens to him, you come, it goes. Another example may be, let's say you have this signboard. You're going to where? Where do you want to go to? You want to go to Rome. So all lead to Rome. Is it true? Not true. Many roads lead away from Rome. So at least how to do, you have a map, and then you try to follow the map, and you go along the road, and the road says Rome this way, and then you're getting closer. But be careful, there are always wrong signs. In Italy, there's a place called California. Yeah, right. In Norway, there's a place called Hell. That is in the language. I think hell means bright or something like that. So then there are different signs. Signs, you must get the right sign. You must get the correct map. Nowadays, there are many maps. Some are not so clear. So they have what you call GPS. GPS sometimes is also not up to date, something wrong. Once my friend was driving and he was following his road near his place to the center, it's a blind zone, and so we followed the GPS, and where we ended up. We went to somewhere, and after some time it became worse. There was a fog. So I told my friend, his name is Massimo. Massimo, you think that we are already dead? Because there are stories of people who died, but they don't know they died, something like that. And look at me. I think we are dead. Look at me. No! Because we're not dead. But the GPS doesn't work. There's a blind zone there. And they construct a new road which is not in the GPS. So anyway. So that's why they have these three signs. You must look at the signs. You have to depend on science theoretically in the beginning. But you don't think it is absolute. You have to work on it and you find out what the science really mean in experience. That's why I thought meditation is experience. Theory is necessary very much for a beginner, correct theory, but finally you have to use your clear comprehension. And clear comprehension have a simple word for it: common sense. So what are three characteristics? So you see, first, we tell the most important of the universal characteristic is anatta, the non-self. To understand it theoretically, first you must know Pali. You listen to translations, there are many translations. But the most normal translation is non-self. Now, what does non-self mean? Absence of a self. Then you got to define what does self mean. Absence of a self. What is the self you're talking about? So one day in Italy, they talk of non-self. I gave a talk on non-self. Bhante says, non-self means no ego, correct? I said, no. Wrong. But not too far, right? No. Non-self means no soul. Because of sensitivity to other people's feelings and religions, this is avoided. In certain countries, maybe even Malaysia, they may call it blasphemy. Simply say that. You want to be safe, you say it under closed doors. But Malaysia is supposed to be an open country, so you just don't preach that to a Muslim. You preach that, you may get arrested. And they nab you and put you into jail. Yes, seriously. So we have to explain in a very, very diplomatic way. No self does not mean no God. We also believe in God, but it depends on what you mean by God. So we have to be a bit slippery. Because the word God also can be defined in so many ways, no? So we have oral philosophy about it. But generally, self means an everlasting entity of the person. That means the soul, the self of, I use somebody example, self of, let's say, I use Mitchell again. The soul or the self of Mitchell is always Mitchell. It's the essence of him, not his mind. His mind changes, but his soul doesn't change. So when he was young, even as a baby, the soul of Mitchell is the soul of Mitchell. When he grows big and becomes very intelligent, earns a lot of money, the soul of Mitchell hasn't changed. Okay? When he dies, Mitchell dies, but his soul doesn't die. That's what we mean. There can be many other definitions, but this is the main culprit. For example, in the Digha Nikaya, the Brahma and Jala Sutta, the first discourse of the Buddha in these long discourses, Brahmajala, it talks of 62 wrong views. And these 62 wrong views, a lot of them is having a different type of self, existence, so on, so on, so on. We won't go into this. Very long sutta. So the idea is to eliminate all of this. So all this comes with thinking and philosophy and feeling what this way, that way, not because of actual insight of experience, direct experiential insight. That one cannot be argued. If there's light, there's light. There's no light, there's light. There's a person there, there's a person. If there's no person, there's no person there. No argument. So anatta means know that. But usually they put non-self because of the translation. The translation "a" is a negative prefix. Atta is self, anatta is non-self. So Nicca is permanence, anicca is impermanent. Because of a negative prefix, so they translate as that. Which is okay, you know. It serves a purpose because when you have thought of this non-self, at least you have these ideas of a self and so on, at least you put it aside. If you're not convinced enough, at least you put aside long enough for you to experience the insight. And you say, okay, it is true, away with it. Send it out from the cold storage to the dustbin. So this is anatta. But more positive, I believe, is that you experience non-self as a reality. So what is that? Before that, I would like to add one or two more things. That is, non-self does not mean, I said just now, I said it does not mean a negative of a self. Non-self does not also mean forgetting the self. Forgetting the self is like, there's so much suffering in me. How can I overcome this suffering? Drown your sorrows in alcohol. So you get one or two big boosts. You like that, I've forgotten myself. Even if you fall into sleep, you forgot yourself. And you wake up, oh yes, when I was sleeping, there was no self. No. Of course, there's no self, but you don't have the insight into no self. There's different insight into non-self. It's insight into reality. And so the idea is the reality. So when you experience reality, and for example, the ultimate realities in terms of the specific characteristics, in terms of the general characteristics, in terms of all the transcendental knowledges, you experience that is non-self. It's the experience of Paramattha Dhamma. And the Paramattha Dhamma is experienced and described in many ways. So you make it very simple and short of reality, the ultimate reality. And the ultimate reality has different characteristics. The deeper and more finer the characteristics you experience, then your understanding of anatta becomes deeper. Right? And when that happens, then effect shows in the progress of insight and including the effect in your daily life. Because when you experience really that the mind knows, the mind always becomes to even the thought processes goes back to influence the thought patterns. They change your thought patterns even in daily life because it's based on reality experience. If, for example, I have a friend, one of my yogis, very smart chap. He goes in very clear stages. And he knows these insights by experience. And normal life, when he goes into practice and all, he's not into very deeper concentration, he automatically looks into his thoughts. And he looks into thought patterns. And what is described is amazing because he says that he can see his mind being reconstructed according to his new insight experiences. When he thinks, want to do this, want to do that. The I is very strong. The I is not there. Sometimes it's there, but very weak. So it thinks in terms of decision, in terms of clear comprehension, common sense. That is the the mindful, what you call computer term for it, file manager. Yeah, it's like a file manager. But this is this, that is that. No, you can see the mind knows what to do, and the person is not there. And so when he starts thinking all those things, and the whole thought patterns, which often is based on, let's say, craving, based on wanting joy, basing on what, that is being pushed aside. The mind knows what is better for itself. So the thought patterns can be seen to be changing because it's sharp and clear now. So what is the non-self, a clear improvement of non-self is the deepening of direct experiential reality on the ultimate reality itself. Okay, anatta. And it goes to the very end. The first inside knowledge is anatta, the last inside knowledge, so anatta. The very experience of the unconditioned element is also anatta. This is important because it shows clearly how delicate and tricky the path can be. Many people, even especially even Buddhists, they always end up saying the pure mind is Nibbana. Yeah, the pure mind and consciousness is Nibbana. And you say mind and consciousness, very tricky. Yeah. In terms of definition, okay, but in terms of experience, tricky. Because when you go to those deep absorption states, jhanic state, all those things, the consciousness is there. The sense of I is not there. When I has been forgotten, left out. The concept of I is forgotten. But the clinging to the wrong view that's latent in it is still there. So the moment he gets this very pleasant state, immediately he jumps into the conclusion. Got it. He tells himself, oh capito. But no, because nobody really describes, nobody really tells you that that is just very deep consciousness, and that deep consciousness is impermanent. Non-self. I cannot see the impermanence. So he jumps. So how do you know? How? So what to do? He said, play safe. Play safe. I give an example. Give this example because you're beginners, you can be very open to these tricks, the mind. I was asked more than once, what do you think, Bhante? There are two schools of thought. One thought is the unconditioned Nibbana is the pure mind. The other thought is the unconditioned is extinction, complete cessation. Which do you think is correct? So how do you answer? I said, why are you asking me this question? You practice and experience for yourself and find out. Why ask me? Very simple. It's more like a Zen answer. But if you want me to say something to decide, then I say the extinction. And that means the total cessation. And I say that no, the everlasting pure consciousness mentioned. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's mentioned mainly by the Forest Sangha And you know, to those people, and due respect to them, I don't agree with it. Then the other one is by the Burmese. So, total cessation, utter cessation, and so on. So they translate into extinction. This is somebody's translation. Extinction. One has a danger of going into the eternalist wrong view. The other has a danger of going into the nihilitionist wrong view. No? And the Buddha says the Buddha doesn't preach eternalism or nihilism. He preaches what? Conditionality. He says because of delusion arises formations, and because of formations arises consciousness, and so on, so in the will of dependence. What the answer is that? It is a very good answer. It's just that you must be sharp enough to understand. But I say I have a reason to say this because I'm playing safe. But when you say this beautiful experience is Nibbana, immediately grab hold of it. You cling to it. And you may be wrong. Say, no, I'm wrong. Right. Okay, you're right, you cling. Hold on to it, the belief. I have nothing to say, but I'm not going to do that. What I tell people is don't attach to anything. Don't jump into the conclusion of anything. So when you don't jump into conclusion, you're playing safe. Even you go into experiencing of cessation, you also don't jump into conclusion. That cessation, completely nothingness, you don't jump into the conclusion. This is important for people who are going into the deeper experiences. Those deeper experiences, there are many of these very subtle, very blissful states. So everything not knowing, rising, falling, go back to rising, falling. What is that? Nothing. Go back to rising, falling. In example, in Malaysia, there was a sadhu that went to teach. This yogi, very good meditator, she practiced, and then she started going to the cessation. So she went to the cessation, and the sadhu asked her, what is in there? Nothing. Try again. It's very, very obvious. So this is anatta. Anatta is not nothing. Nibbana is also not nothing. So it is reality. And unless a person actually experiences it, he knows at once. But of course, people think they know, but it is not the real thing. Talk more on this tomorrow. So generally, I give the idea of anatta. And so when you experience all these phenomena of ultimate realities, the anatta is that because they are ultimate realities, they are natural phenomena. Whether you like it or not, it's like that. And there's no person there that controls it. No person there that owns it. Like the anatta lakkhana, nittam mama nitto hamasamina miso is attati. This is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. Anatta lakkhana emphasizes that repeatedly. And so it helps you to keep getting more and more detached and not keep grasping, identifying things to be self. Now then we can come to the second one, anicca lakkhana, the characteristic of non-self. I always tell students that if you don't see any changes in the object, it is not a good or a personal object. Because anicca is a universal characteristic. And it is a characteristic of the vipassana object. Take, for example, you meditate, it's quite often. You was rising, falling, you was sitting, touching, okay, da. And finally, it becomes very subtle, and your mind becomes very peaceful. Then peace, bright light, wonderful, fantastic. And you can see for a long time. Are you sleeping? You're not sleeping. Sometimes you actually go to sleep. But, do you see any changes? No. You hold on to the peace and you stay just. Not that it's unwholesome. It can be wholesome. Like the samatha jhanic states are wholesome, but you don't see any changes. And so it is not a good vipassana object, because you cannot see anicca. Now, what nothing to bring out here is that some people say, I experience impermanence, but I don't experience non-self. How is it so? I want to experience non-self. You always talk about non-self, but I experience impermanence and experience non-self. Is it true? No. Because you're supposed to experience non-self first before you experience impermanence. Because you're speaking in terms of the characteristic of impermanence, anicca lakkhana. But in terms of the normal English vocabulary, you're correct. Because what your experience and the changes are connected with impermanence, anicca. Using the Pali word anicca, anicca lakkhana. Anicca, impermanence in terms of reality. Anicca lakkhana is the characteristic of impermanence. There's the impermanence, the changes that you see, daytime, nighttime, and all that thing, and the conceptual impermanence. The connected impermanence in a more conceptual sense, in terms of conventional realities. But anyway, that's where we start with. At first, we watch rising, falling. There are concepts there anyway, but we start with that. Just better than complete illusion. You're getting slowly, step by step. So you go from the conventional impermanence to the conventional very impermanence. Then the conventional extremely impermanence. So finally, you get into experiencing impermanence, the characteristic of it. So you book yourself there. Although you're not there yet, it's all right, you're getting there. And in that also, you gain a lot of understanding, knowledge, and peace of mind. You don't get too attached to things. All those come about with blessings. So what do you mean by the characteristic of impermanence? Characteristic of impermanence is defined as the moment you know it, the moment it disappears. The very moment, the momentary change, moment to moment change, the arising and disappearing change of the phenomena, that is impermanent, characteristic impermanent. It does not last a moment. That's how the text defines it. Now, does that seem strange to you? Because it takes some time to get to there. And sometimes you may be experiencing it to some extent, but you don't know. Because this one goes outside a lot of theoretical explanations. One person described this to me. It's quite clear. He was meditating, rising, falling, all those change, all the things. Then suddenly he was in tears. But he was an old man, not aged, ancient. He was quite an elderly man, maybe around 60 plus or something like that. And he's a medical doctor. I think so. So he's not stupid. He's very smart. A lot of faith, a lot of belief. So what's that? He said, what happened? Then he described, what I saw a change that cannot be stopped. You cannot, impossible to stop the change. Because that change that we talk of normally is not the real change, real impermanence we talk about. The real change, for example, there's no speed. Speed is change, fast or slow. It's not involved. So that is just nature by itself. It's a real nature that cannot be measured. It's there, and it's not there. Spontaneously, one after another, or just together. So when that happens, I know this man has experienced anicca. So that's what we're talking about with anicca lakkhana. So to reach to that type of perception of impermanence, you need to have strong perception of non-selfless. And non-self not in terms of the conventional type of non-self, but in terms of the experience of reality. There's this Dhamma is often taught to students and also practitioners. There's anicca lakkhana, and anicca nupassana. Heard of this? Yes, sir? Hope so. Anicca means impermanence. Anicca lakkhana, the characteristics of impermanence, and anicca nupassana. Anupassana means the contemplation of impermanence. It means the meditation, the meditative consciousness and the meditative experience. Anicca nupassana. Anicca lakkhana are the characteristics. What I described just now as immediately arising, immediately disappearing. It's like a sign. Lakkhana is like a sign, a signpost. This, that's it, not a signpost. Anicca lakkhana. But mind you, it's just a lakkhana. It's not the anicca itself. Anicca is the reality itself. I was quite surprised when I read this in all of those Vipassana books, manuals. This is in Thai language. Because I read Thai language. And it's written by this Burmese teacher, training and so on. He gives the three definitions of the three universal characteristics. One is anicca, impermanence. Impermanence is the incessant arising and passing away of the five aggregates. And what is dukkha? Dukkha, suffering, is the incessant arising and passing away of the five aggregates. And what is anatta? It's the incessant arising and passing of the five aggregates. No? You understand very clearly. So they are talking about reality, which is in terms of deep experience, you end up in the same thing. Because of different potential, different situations, different conditioning, different thought processes, they seem to be different. But in the very ultimate sense, we're talking about reality. It's the same thing. But no, at certain points of the practice and contemplation, the persona, no, certain characteristics stand out. They use the word obtrusiveness. You know, the word obtrusive, stand out. Obtrusiveness is obtrusive. Of the three characteristics, impermanence, suffering, non-self, impermanence is the most obtrusive characteristic at that moment. So the one that judge our comes to the forefront. So, and so we have all, from there we know the classifications of the jnanas and all those, what we look for, what we are aware of, and how to practice better, and so on, and so on, and so on. So that's what we call the characteristic of impermanence, anicca lakkhana. And from anicca lakkhana, you keep practicing and then you get more and more experience of what anicca is, impermanence. Then you come to dukkha. Dukkha lakkhana again comes to the same thing. It talks of dukkha, suffering. Then you have this dukkha lakkhana, the characteristic of suffering, and dukkha nupassana, the contemplation, insight contemplation into the nature of suffering. So the first one I already told you, it is incessant arising, passing away of five decades. But when you come to the general characteristic, dukkha lakkhana, that it defines it as oppressiveness. Being oppressive, the nature of oppressiveness. Oppressiveness is stress. It gives you stress. So, what is stress? Take, for example, that you have no anger at the time. You have anger, of course. You're under stress, no? But you don't have to have anger to observe stress. When you observe stress, you know this is like squeezing you, it's pounding on you, but you still watch it peacefully, calmly, and you know all the nature, how this nature of oppressiveness tortures the mind. It's kind of a torture. If you are not so keen on reality, then of course you can find some escape in sensual pleasures or in even less stressful objects. For example, some objects have not so much suffering, but that's because you're not so sensitive. Take, for example, dukkha, that's the most stressful type, pain of the body and mind. And the dukkha, viparinama dukkha, stress dukkha because of change, alternation, sometimes the use of alternation. So that is when you don't feel dukkha, because it changes from one form to another. Sometimes the word is used to indicate happy feeling, but generally it means that thing, So, but the most important is sankhara dukkha, the suffering of formations. This one is the real dukkha lakkhana. That means you see the aggregates in its most natural form, and can be very stressful. And you experience it by means of insight. So your mind go through all this. You have to learn to be strong, to be able to accept the bitter truth. And the stronger you accept it, the stronger the impact the mind would have on the mind. We go to more this later. One example is, for example, one person actually experiences very clearly of all the characteristics and all everything. And these people are practicing for years. And suddenly it became very strong. It was so strong that he has to bite his teeth, hold on to the floor, because it's as if his whole world, the whole world was totally exploding, burst aside. There was no imagination, he was very mindful and he was holding tight to it. From there, it's a very strong perception of the dukkha lakkhana. So there are various levels of experiencing this dukkha lakkhana, this dukkha characteristics. From the more simple, the more deep, more profound, and more intense. So you go through all these levels. The important part is that you are able to develop insight into the sankhara dukkha formations, whereby when you develop that, then you develop the true detachment. We call it dispassion. Because the detachment is not just to happiness or to egoism, no. It's through the nature of suffering in samsara. We stop here tonight. We continue tomorrow. Today is the 9th, 8th, 8th. Yeah? So 2 more days. Okay, 2 more days. Don't think I can finish it, but then wrap everything up in a nutshell. Summarize. Okay, any questions? Yes. Yes,
Yeah. What Mahabhuta do you think itching is?
itchiness. Itchiness, no, there are more than one there involved. There are more than one there. But often it's the fire element. It's the fire element. For example, you say prickly sensations. Prickly sensation is the fire, tejo dhatu. It could be, depends on how you feel. It could be the earth element. Because it's very light. The pressure is very light, one after another. So it could be the weak earth element. But often you see, for example, you're not feeling well. No? For example, you have fever or you have this pruritus, is itchiness or things like that. It is a fire element. Earth element is ticklish in the sense of the weak earth element. But when it becomes strong and very itchy, then it is a fire element.
We have to scratch it. That's fire element.
Fire element. That's why sometimes it's earth element, but often it's a fire element. Definitely is not wind. Definitely is not wind. Wind is tension or water. Okay. We continue tomorrow. We have our metta session at around maybe 15 minutes time.